In this lesson, we're going to be going over data formats. Data formats, in this case, I'm talking about different ways of storing information about the virtual machines. So right now I am on a Linux system running KVM, and I'm in the directory where the different disk images are stored. So I've got 3 disk images here, and I've got 2 of them that look to me like they are probably raw images. And let's take a look there. So it looks like there's an x86 boot sector and a grand unified bootloader. So I've got a system that's running Grub, which says to me it's probably running Linux. And the fact that it's presenting a boot sector tells me that I've got a raw image on my hands there. So I've got a disk drive that's a raw image of a real hard disk, or something that looks like a real hard disk because I've got this raw image. So I could take a look at dvwa.img and see what I've got there. That says it's just data. Now let's take a look at Windows, and that says it's a VMware 4 disk image. Now, one of the advantages of KVM, and actually it's true of many virtualization solutions, is it can support multiple types of hard disk formats. So KVM actually will boot up a VMware disk image, and it will boot up a raw disk image as well. And there's also a disk image that it uses natively called QEMU. So I've got these 3 types of disk images that I can use inside of KVM. Now, in terms of the configuration, in this case, I've got a config file here, and I can show you that we've got some definitions for CPUs here, and that's a configuration that gets used. In terms of the configuration that is used for the hardware for each individual operating system that's running, or each individual virtual OS that's running, there is an XML file that gets used to define all of the hardware. So we can go back to Parallels here on the Mac OS side. And in this case, I'm actually going to open it up in Finder. Now you can see here I've got several virtual machines in this directory, and it looks like that's a file. What it really is a directory, much like applications that we've looked at previously. It's actually a directory. So here's a folder where there's snapshots, and here's actually the hard drive image. So you can see here I've got a Parallels VM hard disk image, and that's another type of hard drive that we could use for virtualization. So VMware has their virtualized hard drives, and Parallels has their virtualized hard drives. So you can see here I've just opened up the configuration file for this particular virtual system. So this is an XML file, and it defines this virtual system. So I've got, looks like a boot order down here under startup, and I should have some hardware configuration further down as I keep scrolling down through here. Looks like there's shared folders, and we've got host sharing turned on, and there's shared profiles. And then there's the configuration for time synchronization. And then we've got the network configuration. And now down here, we start looking at the hardware. So got the number of CPUs is 1, and we've got acceleration level, and what else have we got? So down here, we've got the memory, and it looks like there's 2 gigs of memory that's installed. So it's pretty easy to look at the configuration of this particular system just by opening up this XML file. Even though it's called config.pvs, it's really an XML file that's sitting there on the hard drive that defines what this virtual machine looks like. And as I said, I've also got this hard drive here that's stored in a particular way for parallels. And that would be different than the other virtualization solutions like VMware, for example, would store their hard drive. They would have their own data format for installing that. Now, a lot of these virtualization solutions do have conversion utilities so that you could either do imports or just a straight conversion from one of these formats to another of these formats. So lots of different formats depending on the type of hypervisor you're using, whether it's VMware or Parallels, or whether it's the VMware ESX server, or whether it's Microsoft's Hyper-V. There's going to be different data formats for the hard drive and for the configuration, although a lot of times these days the configuration is stored in an XML format. And that's because it makes it easy to write, and there's a lot of libraries that allow easy writes to XML file formats. It's also easy to quickly and visually parse what's happening. You can just open up the XML configuration file and look at it and see pretty clearly what's happening inside the virtual machine from a hardware and configuration standpoint.